and the comparison results are not coming fine. Sir, is
So
there
the
any?
pins, yeah, the pins have to be added in the layer PN, not in the layer DRW. The pins have to be added in the layer PN, and it also the properties have also to be set. So you can just check with the TAs later, and they can help you with that aspect.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
So, friends, from the poll that we had yesterday, we realized that a lot of you are while I've reduced the requirement of best quizzes to be taken to 7, you guys still want a quiz tomorrow. And like many of you guys want a quiz tomorrow, though quite a few, I think at least more than one third of the class says that no, they don't want a quiz tomorrow. So, since a large population wants a quiz tomorrow, we will have a quiz tomorrow, but it will be optional. If you don't want to give that quiz, don't give that quiz because you anyways have 10 quizzes there whose scores are already in there, and we will pick 7 out of as many number of quizzes that you have given. Okay, Prakhar, does that sound okay? Because that was what we had discussed earlier.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will have the quiz tomorrow evening, but you can choose to not to appear in the quiz. That is fine with us. Okay. It's for those of you who don't want to quiz. It's like there is no quiz happening. Okay. Uh, so, any questions regarding that? Great. So let's move forward then. So we start to look at the system hierarchy in a computer, in a processor. So all of you have done some course on computer architecture.
Doing
Hello.
currently.
Okay. So if you're doing currently, or if you've already done, then this much you would know that in a computer or in a processor, there are multiple levels of caches or multiple levels at which storage is there. There are Prakhar, click. So there are very fast registers and L1 caches which are operating at the speed of the processor. So I have shown them to be inside the processor over here. Then there are second level caches which are larger and many times shared across different processors. Third level cache may or may not exist on every chip. But then you have a main memory which is off chip, which is typically the DRAM. So when you purchase your cell phone and you say that, and the vendor says that it has 8 GB of RAM, he's talking about this DRAM, which is off chip. This is the main memory. And then there is this non-volatile storage, which is mostly solid state storage nowadays with most of the laptops, but definitely also magnetic drives in desktops and in quite a few laptops also. So this is the non-volatile storage, which could be magnetic in nature or which could be based on solid state devices like flash. Okay, so this memory hierarchy has been introduced because what was realized was that the processor operates very fast. Due to technology scaling, the processor, as you would know already, the processor speeds are anywhere around 2 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz. When you talk about servers, the processors operate at 5 gigahertz and so on. So processor operates very fast, but the memories are not able to catch up. So the typical access time of a main memory of a DRAM, for example, could be anywhere more than 50 to 100 nanoseconds. But if your processor is operating at 2 gigahertz, then you need some data to be accessed in an interval of say 500 picoseconds. Am I right? So what was done was that, okay, we need the DRAM, we need 8 gigabytes of memory, but we do not need 8 gigabytes of memory to be accessed in every cycle. we need much smaller access to memories on a cycle-to-cycle basis. So we introduce smaller SRAMs on chip and inside the processor. Okay. Next slide, Prakhar. Any questions still here? Okay. So the L1 cache, L2 cache that we talked about just now are random access memories. So these are read-write memories. With even main memory, DRAM is a read-write memory, which are volatile in nature. So that represents the first section of, the first half of this table. SRAM and DRAM, as I said, are random access memories, but there are quite a few non-random access memories also. For example, FIFO, LIFO, that is last in, first out, which you would use in stacks. So you've done courses on algorithms, some course on algorithms, bubble sort or stuff like that.
Yes.
All of you know coding. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So stacks, when we use stacks, we are essentially using the functionality of last in, first out, and it can be implemented in hardware also. Shift registers, all of us know. And then content addressable memories. Have you heard about them earlier?
No, sir.
So, say typically when you want to access a memory, you would have an address with you, and you would say that, okay, find the content that is stored on this address location. Now, consider you going to a library, or okay, let me take an example which is much closer to electronics. Let us say that you have this router, and to it you tell that I want to go to google.com. So now what are you telling him? Telling the router? Are you telling the router the address, the physical and exact address of your destination? No. You only just told him the content that, okay, I want to go to google.com. Now, for the router, this means it has to identify the IP address, or it has to identify. So, okay, a router may have, let us say, 32 ports. Let us say, okay, 32 sockets. So now it needs to identify which of these 32 sockets to send the request to. Each of those 32 sockets will take you, one socket will take you towards Americas, another socket will take you towards Europe, another socket towards Africa, and so on. Okay. So now the router needs to decide which of these sockets to send the address to, but your request to, but is not given the request, the address, or you're not given the content of the address in your request. Your request is only about google.com. In this case, what a router does is it checks the content of every storage location. So if we assume that we have 32 sockets in a router, so there are 32 contents that are stored. The router checks the contents of all the 32 locations and says, oh, this is the best match. Okay. And with this is the best match result, it sends the request that you have just sent to that particular socket. So what we are essentially doing is we are doing content addressing. We are having a memory which can match the content to give the address at which that content is available. Are you able to see this?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any questions around this? So content addressable memories are very widely used in networking applications. In applications like say even processors, content addressable memories are also used there when we have to, for example, implement a tag. So for those of you who will decide or who have decided to take up the memory design course in next semester, we will talk about cache hierarchy in much more detail in that course. And that is when we will also talk about tag memories. So those of you who are doing computer architecture may already know about the functionality of a tag memory, but we will talk about how it is designed. So CAMs are also used in tag memories when you want very fast tag access results. Okay. On the right side of this table, we have non-volatile memories. On the rightmost side, we have a ROM. So what is a ROM according to you?
So read-only memory.
Where would you use a ROM?
So maybe to store the boot files of an OS. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah. So in fact, almost every chip would have some kind of a read-only memory on it, even if it's a very small quantity, but almost every chip would have some kind of read-only memory, which has the booting sequence of the embedded into it, written into it. ROMs are very, very dense because you do not need to change the contents of ROMs. Okay, you just need to read. So first, on the periphery side, you have only the read port, and on the array side, you actually program by just putting contacts or vias at the desired locations. So the entire ROM cell could be as small as just one transistor, and that's it. Okay. Now we also have non-volatile read-write memories. Do you know of any example of such a memory?
So isn't a hard disk non-volatile read-write memory? Magnetic hard disk.
Yeah, magnetic hard disk is one.
Other than
But
SSD also.
yes, the solid state drives is what we will be interested in this course, because magnetic is not really as much of electronics or on-chip stuff, but in this course, and DVD as well as in the next course, that is MDT, we will talk about non-volatile read-write memories like flash. Okay, so non-volatile read-write memories are very, very dense. Definitely much denser than the DRAM or the SRAM. So typically an SRAM, the most commonly used SRAMs have 6 transistor memory cell. A DRAM, the most commonly used DRAM would have 1 transistor and a capacitor. There is a lot of other paraphernalia involved with the transistor and the capacitor combo. So there is some loss of density because of that. But flashes are very, very dense because in advanced technologies, you could actually store more than 1 bit on 1 gate, on 1 transistor. Okay, so flash in that sense is the densest memories that we have today. However, as technology is scaling, there are some limitations that we are observing on scalability of flash. So a lot of work is happening on alternatives to flash. So when the last lecture of our next course, that is MDT, those of you who choose to take MDT, we'll talk about these alternatives of flash which are under evaluation or already in the market to some extent, do not have the same scale, but are already into the market. And we will review that in the last lecture of our course MDT. Okay. Any questions here? So this is just a quick overview of memories. We decided to take this up before arithmetic circuits because we felt that this is something where I can add more value to all of you. None of this you will find in any course book, or at least what we will discuss subsequently, we will not find it in any course book, not even in the reference books that we have, in the detail that we can talk about. Okay? And arithmetic circuits whatever I would have covered in the class, much more detail is available in the books that you have as the reference books with you. So I thought that I would preferentially cover memory design in this class, and we will take up arithmetic circuits, if at all, only later if we have time. Okay. So next slide. Yes, Swapna?
So these memory on chip, like they are designed using the FinFET technology, or maybe the floating gate, or the simple MOS, or there are different variants to it. I mean,
So SRAMs are designed in the same technology as the other logic. So if the other logic is FDSOI, we will design. So because it's on chips, the same gate structure, same gate stack. Flash uses floating gate,
okay.
and DRAM uses a capacitor also, in addition to the regular transistors. FinFET is just one type of a transistor. So there's a planar transistor, there is FDSOI, there is FinFET. So these are different types of transistors. SRAMs would be designed in the same manner as other devices on the same technology on the same chip are being designed. So if it's a FinFET technology, you will design SRAM in FinFET. If it's FDSOI, then FDSOI, and so on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a very quick top-level overview of what these three kinds of memories entail and offer to us as designers. So SRAMs are very fast because they're made of CMOS devices, operate at the frequency of the processor, so they are targeted and designed to be very, very fast. Okay, but they use 6 transistors per cell, so they are not as dense. You can do unlimited number of read-write because it's a standard CMOS logic, not requiring any extra high voltages or anything of that sort to do read and write operations. They consume low power. We say low power because they do not require any refresh. Okay, DRAMs like dynamic logic store information on capacitors. And when we were doing dynamic circuits, we noticed that the capacitors would leak, the capacitors would lose their charge, and we would need to have a keeper or have methods to refresh the contents of the capacitor there. So dynamic memories require refresh. So they consume a lot of power. SRAMs do not require refresh, so they do not consume as much power. But flash is ultra low power because to retain the data, retain the information, you can do that even when there is no power supplied to the memory. For SRAMs, for example, if you want to retain the data, retain the information stored inside the memory, you need some minimum voltage to be applied. If you switch off the supply, then because these are volatile memories, SRAMs and DRAMs, they will lose the contents. So if we rate them in terms of power consumption, I would say flash has the lowest power consumption. So even though per cycle, even though dynamic read-write operation in a flash would consume more power than read-write operation in an SRAM, in the overall scheme of things, flash would consume much lower power than a SRAM when you want to retain the contents throughout. Okay. Okay, as we already said, in a SRAM we store information in a bistable latch. In a DRAM it's on a capacitor, and on a flash it's on a floating gate. And you use device non-idealities like tunneling and hot Kyler injection to good use when you store data in a flash. Okay. Next slide.
Sir, so
Yes,
why
Shyam?
the flash is very slow?
Okay, flash is very slow because you're storing data as small VT shift of a device. So you store some charge on the floating gate, and that leads to a small VT shift. So what happens is that the amount of, so you have a long bit line which needs to be discharged through this very small transistor, which has a small VT shift in comparison to another transistor which does not have that VT shift. Okay. So what essentially you need to do is you now need to sense a small change in current. You need to sense a very small change in, and then tell with what is stored inside the memory. Okay. This takes time. This takes time, and therefore flash is much slower, even than a DRAM.
Sir, in previous courses, I learned that flash is the fastest memory. So,
Fastest non-volatile read-write memory. So if you compare it with a magnetic drive, it is fastest. So in non-volatile read-write memories, flash is the fastest, no doubt about that. But in between these three, flash is the slowest.
okay, sir.
Okay. So whether we talk about flashes or we talk about SRAMs or DRAMs, you will see that any of those storage elements are dense because they are physically organized in a particular way. You will see that these memories are typically organized with a big, what do you say, big array where multiple bit cells, multiple memory cells are placed adjacent to each other, and they share a lot of physical structures amongst themselves. Okay, so this is what we call as a large array. And then around that array, we have periphery circuits like decoders, the same that Rohit and his team, and I think one more team are designing. And we have IO circuits, which would have sense amplifiers in them, which would have muxes in them, which would have stuff like that, output buffers in them, organized and arranged around the arrays. Okay. So whether we talk about SRAMs, DRAMs, or flash, or any other memories like MRAMs or RRAMs or whatever, you will have a few periphery circuits which are used to access a highly dense conglomerate of memory cells which form an array. Okay, is this clear till here? No, last slide only, Prakhar. Any questions still here?
Sir, you used the word conglomerate, something like that. So what you was trying to say?
Arrangement, forget about it. Arrangement. Let me use a simpler word. A very big arrangement of memory cells. Conglomerate means a collection, a big collection. That is the meaning of the term conglomerate. A big collection, okay, of independent elements. That's what is called a conglomerate. Is this clear till now?
So these individual elements or the array or the blocks could be representing the individual elements of the, I mean, the bitwise elements, or could be representing containing a byte also of a like that could be up to the. Okay.
Yeah. For SRAMs, each element stores 1 bit.
Okay.
Okay. For TCAMs, for FIFO, for DRAMs, each element, ROM, even ROM, each element stores 1 bit. But in a flash, you will notice that to gain more density, each element may be storing more than 1 bit also.
Okay.
Okay. Now, to access these elements, we have these horizontal lines that are going. These lines, horizontal lines, are called word lines. Okay. And we also have these vertical lines that are running across the entire array. These are called bit lines. So as the name suggests, the horizontal lines would help us access one word or multiple words, but at least one word. Okay, so all the bits, so if I have a 32-bit memory or a 64-bit memory, so all the 32 bits or at least a large part of those 32 bits of the memory of a storage location would be accessed by the word line. Okay, and bit lines would access individual bits of that word. So when we read or write into a memory location, we first select a word line through horizontal signal, and then read on the bit lines. So I've just added the nomenclature of word lines and bit lines for you now. Is that okay? So next slide. So if we say that a memory is organized like this, there are row decoders, there are IOs, there is an array. There is also this big circuit which is called a control circuit. So what does this control circuit have? The control circuit, a control circuit would have stuff like pre-decoders. So जो अभी रोहित वगैरह बात कर रहे थे pre-decoders की. So those pre-decoders will be placed inside this control circuit, and clock generators. Okay. So next click. The outputs of the pre-decoders and the clock generator are mixed in the row decoder region in what we call as post decoders. The post decoder would select a word line, click, and this word line would select all the bit cells on a given row. Depending on the contents stored inside the memory cell, the bitline pair will generate a differential voltage across the bitline and bitline bar. Okay, so we have a pair of bitlines over here. This differential is a very small differential, is amplified by using what we call as a sense amplifier in the IO region. So we have a group, at least one group, which is working on sense amplifier in this course. So to develop more understanding of what a sense amplifier is, if you do not intend to take the memory design course, you should definitely attend the presentation of people who are working on these row decoders and sense amplifiers, because there can be a question or two around these topics also when you go sit for interviews. Okay, so this sense amplifier, click, will give the output when some enable signal, which we over here represent as sense amplifier enable, SAEN. When that enable signal is given to the sense amplifier, it would latch the output and buffer it on the Q pin. So this is the clock to Q path. And if we look at this a little closely, if we set up the pre-decoder addresses in the post decoder, then the fastest clock to Q path will involve generation of the clock, selection of the word line in the post decoder, enabling of the creating a differential on the bit lines, enabling of the sense amplifiers, and then driving the output Q. So जब रोहित ने पहले सवाल पूछा था, he was asking that should I mix the clock in the pre-decode region itself? We could do that, as I answered, but that would mean that the clock would then be involved in some additional pre-decoding. So clock to Q delay path would increase a bit. Okay, any questions till now?
Sir,
Yes, Setu?
So what's the difference between pre and post decode?
So it's something like I have a 9-bit addressing. I have 512 rows in my memory, and so for decoding those 512 rows, I need 9 address bits.
Yes, sir.
Do you think I would make a 9-bit NAND gate? 9 input NAND gate?
I don't hope so.
You don't hope so. So, because a 9 input NAND gate would not function in the advanced technologies that we have. I doubt that it would have functioned even in the older technologies, but in the advanced technology nodes, it will definitely not function. We do not want to keep a stack of more than 4 in any NAND gate. So, what does this mean? This means that finally, I have to split my 9 bits into smaller chunks so that I can have a decoding in 2 levels. I will decode first set of bits, small chunks first, and then the decoded outputs of these chunks would be used to finally select the output, finally select the word line there. So the first stage where 2 or 3 bits are decoded simultaneously is called the pre-decoding stage. The second stage is where you will merge the decoded outputs of the first stage to select the final word line. Does that help, Setu?
Yes, sir. So, effectively, this post decode, this A output would be effectively going through a mux, which is fed from output of the latch.
Actually, a demux.
Yeah,
We are
sorry.
decoding.
Debug. Yeah, debug. Sorry.
We are decoding. So there is a first decoder, and then there is a second decoder, and through that we decode the entire address bus.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sir?
Yes, Swapnil?
So with the addition of the pre-decode stage, you might want to reduce the overhead of decoding so many bits together. But as we saw in the logical example scenario, also where you have the multiple chains, right, and they're consisting of inverters and everything, and you get different scenarios. So you would want to break that chain also into the pre-decode and the post-decode stage, or you would replicate the same stages into smaller chunks. So I mean, the question is that wouldn't it in a way blow the area? So with the addition of the pre-decode due to the chains of all those, right, inverter and everything.
So again, Swapnil, the intent over here is that we would want the AND gates and OR gates to be put right directly on the address pins. Okay, and then we buffer these vertical lines through buffers.
Okay.
Similarly, in the post-decoding stage, the NAND gate would be the first post-decoding gate, and then you buffer the word line through inverters.
Okay.
Anyways, you needed huge buffers. If you have to drive 512 word lines, you would need large buffers.
Right.
You cannot do away with that aspect. If you would make that kind of a drive with a 9-input NAND gate, you would kill yourself. So this kind of splitting into pre-decoding and post-decoding is actually done to reduce the overall area.
Okay. And so how did we actually select suppose we wanted to select the bit line, how did we actually do that? Like post decoder was selecting the word line. For the bit line part, the post decoder also works the same way. It selects the bit line if needed, the vertical column.
Okay, so in the IOs, if you notice in the previous slide, I had shown that there is a mux there.
Right, yes.
So if I have some bit lines in a particular row which do not need to be selected, okay, then we will simply mux them. We will have some select signals which would mux them. So 2 address pins, for example, can go to the mux in the IO and select 1 out of 4 bit lines. Okay. Otherwise, in a DRAM, for example, every bit line will be connected to a sense amplifier.
Achha.
But then that takes more area.
Okay, so you can.
But then that takes more area.
Right.
Okay. आगे बढ़े?
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you.
Next slide. So, if I ask you to implement a D latch, a clogged D latch or a SR latch, do you realize that this 14 transistor implementation is actually the densest one, where I'm giving outputs Q and Q bar, and there is a clock, there is a data pin, and this is the densest CMOS implementation you can get for a latch there. However, this has 14 transistors. We just said that SRAM cell would have only 6. So how do you transform this D latch with so many transistors into a 6 transistor cell? So see, the first thing that you notice is that, okay, so for a memory, clock is usually low. If we have a 512 row memory, and I say that memory is accessed in every cycle also, then in any given cycle, I will be accessing only one memory cell, and only one memory address, so only one row. So the probability of selection of any one row is 1 by 512. Do you see this? Probability of selection of any clock of these on this memory array is 1 by 512 if I have 512 rows.
Yes, sir.
So this clock is essentially low most of the time. Is it fair to say this? Then more than 99% of time, this clock is low.
Sir, why are we talking in terms of clock? Because wouldn't the clock be there for every word line? So,
Yeah. So, no. So, okay. So for a storage element over here, the clock is the word line.
okay.
Okay. For the storage element over here, the clock is the word line because you access any cell when the word line comes. So for this latch, you access it when the clock comes. So clock is the word line for us.
Okay.
So for so in one of the next slides, you will see I would have already changed the clock name to word line. Okay. So for all practical purposes, clock is low for more than 99% of time for any memory cell, for any storage element over here. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So for majority of the time, this VDD node on the top is actually available at the top of this PMOS, which drives Q bar and Q directly. Are you able to see this? If clock is 0, majority of the time, then VDD is almost always available at the PMOS, which has Q and Q bar at its drain. Are you with me? Hello?
So essentially what you will do is that you will get rid of that PUN network, the upper 2 transistors.
Upper 4 transistors actually.
Right, 4 transistors, right.
So what I say is that these 4 transistors are really not needed because 99.8% of the time, even if I have my memory being accessed every cycle, which is not really the case, memory is accessed not in every cycle. So for a huge duration of time, these 4 transistors are not needed and they are occupying such a lot of area. So we said, let's get rid of them first. So हमने कहा कि 99.9% of time these 4 transistors were not needed, but they were needed in that 0.1% of time. What were they doing in that 0.1% of time? Can you tell me that?
I mean, they were just sitting there holding on to their data. They aren't driving anything.
So the output would be depending on the value of the D input. If the D input was not there and the clock was there, and the D input would actually latch or not latch. depending on the.
Yes. So when the clock was there, these 4 transistors, because of the D input, were telling or what were informing the storage element whether the, or let us forget about informing. These 4 transistors were ensuring that there is no race condition anywhere or no current fight situation anywhere. We had a completely static CMOS circuit where if Ck is equal to 1 and let us say D is equal to 1, then Q bar is very comfortably driven to 0 because the PMOS stack does not get VDD to the middle PMOS there. Are you able to see this? They have blocked the, so if my D is equal to 1 and Ck is equal to 1, I should discharge Q bar to 0. Are you able to see this aspect? If my D is equal to 1 and Ck is equal to 1, Q bar should discharge to 0. इतना आप देख पा रहे हैं?
Yes, sir.
And when we had these 4 transistors up there, they ensured that VDD to Q bar path was blocked. Because Ck is also 1 and D is also 1, so the 2 PMOSs on the top are both off. So the VDD path is blocked. So there was no short circuit current that would flow. Do you see this? Whereas now, once I remove the top 4 PMOSs, whether I am able to discharge Q bar or not is dependent on the relative strength of this PMOS, which is driving Q bar, and the stack of D and Ck. Do you see this? So now there is a fight condition, a current ratio condition between Q bar and between the PMOS and the stack of 2 NMOSs. Are you able to see this? Any questions?
So it looks like a pseudo NMOS kind of a setup, right? In which there's a PMOS.
Yeah. In a pseudo NMOS, the PMOS was always on. Over here, the
Yeah.
PMOS will not be always on. You will want to switch it off after the latching operation happens. You will actually turn it off. But yes, it does appear to be like that.
So like there will be a voltage divider kind of a thing when there is a pull down, when the pull down path is on.
Yes. So there is some race condition, some current ratioing that you have to take care of when you design. है ना? Are you able to see this? So there is some current ratioing that you need to take care of when you design this with this. है ना? So when we gained density, we actually lost the ease or the simplicity of the static CMOS. And we now have more design complexity to handle when we design the SRAM cell. But since SRAM cells are used in huge numbers and in advanced technology nodes, SRAMs can be occupying up to 90% of a SOC area. In a SOC which is memory intensive, 90% of area could be SRAMs. We say, okay, 90% of area is SRAMs. If I instead of using 6 transistors end up using 14 transistors or 12 transistors, then this 90% of area will blow up to double, let us say. So it will start to consume 95% of chip area. And it would also increase the size of the chip to almost double. So this is not a good idea. Area is gold. And therefore, we decide to take the burden of design complexity as designers, and we will design SRAM cells without these 4 transistors. What this also means is there will be some figures of merit that we will need to take care of when we design a SRAM cell. Are you with me? Any questions till now? So next slide. So finally, a 6 transistor memory cell looks like this. So what we have done is we have replaced CK node with word line. The the NMOSs that were carrying D or that were stacking with CK and having the input as D or D bar, they are moved in the IO region. Because we know that at any given point of time, only one word line will be selected. And the bit line is shared across all the memory cells. So we will transfer the information that we want to read or write into the memory through those bit lines. And we will have just one common D input for the entire column. And therefore, we push that transistor also inside the IO, and memory cell is left with 6 transistors. Now, to read this memory cell, click, you will take word line to high, and you will keep the bit lines, click, precharged to VDD. When the word line goes high, click, one of the bit lines would start to discharge. So which bit line would start to discharge? The side on which you have stored a 0. Click. And you will be able to see that the 2 bit lines have a differential voltage between them. This differential voltage is amplified by the sense amplifier in the IO region. So this is how you do the read operation in a memory cell. Any questions with this?
So can you go over it again, because I didn't completely get it.
Okay. So over here, there are these 2 nodes, bit lines and bit line bar. Do you see that?
Yes.
These 2 nodes are precharged to VDD. These are capacitors. They are held at VDD, or they are precharged to VDD. Okay.
Yeah.
When you select the word line, the 2 transistors, the 2 NMOSs turn on.
Mm.
The side on which 0 is stored, that NMOS will conduct some current and will discharge the bit line.
Yes.
The other side, 1 is stored. So even though the NMOS has turned on, there is no discharge that will happen. So finally, there is a differential that appears between bit line and bit line bar.
Okay.
This you sense inside this IO region through a sense amplifier.
Got it, sir.
Okay.
So, sir, for every bit cell, we have one sense amplifier assigned to each of them?
No, because bit lines are shared across columns. In the worst case, you need to put a sense amplifier on every column. So a DRAM would have a sense amplifier on every column, for example. However, in SRAMs, because you're already giving lots of area in the memory cell, there are 6 transistors, DRAM has only 1 transistor. Because you're giving a lot of area in the memory cell, you say that, okay, at least on the periphery, let me do some more sharing. And you put one sense amplifier for every 4 or 8 columns. And you have a mux stage in between which selects the bit line pair which would feed into the sense amplifier.
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Yes,
Sir, sir,
Yes, Swapnil?
sir. So that differential voltage in the BL part would actually indicate that you have read a 0, right? And
That depends. If you say that BLTI is what is my data stored, then yes. If I say that BLFI is the data stored, then you will say that, okay, BLB is what you read. So it's about what you write and what you read. Don't get hijacked by this 0 and 1.
okay.
What you write, that way you read. That's it. If when you had to write a 1, you wrote 1 on the BLFI, you say you read on bitline bar. You will read also on bitline bar. Okay?
Okay. And so what would actually have prevented my BLFI node to discharge into 0 through the ground path? I mean, you have
You tell me. BLTI is storing a 0?
No, the BLFI, if you had the gate voltage given to it, and then it would have discharged to 0.
But the bit lines are pre-charged to VDD, no?
Okay.
To conduct any charge, to allow any charge to flow, there has to be a differential voltage across the NMOS. You turned the NMOS on, but there was no voltage differential. So BLFI will not discharge.
अच्छा, और BLTI तो पहले 0 है, ठीक है, ओके, राइट राइट राइट.
ठीक है? Anything else? Okay, we move forward then. Now we look at the write operation. Now in the write operation, we know in advance what we want to write into the memory cell. Let us assume that BLTI was 0 and BLFI was 1. And now I want to flip this content. BLTI I want to go to 1 and BLFI I want to go to 0. So what we do is click, we take one bit line to 1 and the side on which we want to write a 0, we take that bit line to 0. Prakhar, click. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Prakhar, click.
Sir, I've clicked only. I think it is on the wrong slide. क्योंकि मुझे तो ये दिखा रहा है cell operation ही. I'll start it again, just a second.
ठीक है, it's okay. Don't break the flow. So you keep one bit line to 0 and other bit line to 1. Just do 1 or 2 clicks. Then you select the word line.
Isn't it visible?
नहीं, मेरे पास तो वीडियो अपडेट नहीं हो रहा. Is the video updating with others?
I'll join again then.
No, sir.
No, sir, it's
Okay.
not a bit.
Okay. So what happens is that since one of the bit lines, जो अभी स्वप्निल का सवाल था कि what prevents BLFI from discharging to 0. Now since you put the other bit line which is connected to BLFI at 0, when you will turn the pass gate on, BLFI will now actually discharge to 0. Okay. Now on the other side, you had BLTI at 0 originally and BL at 1. So on the other side, simple read operation will start. Okay. Only after write operation finishes on BLFI, that is, I am able to write full 0 on BLFI, that the PMOS on the other side will turn on. And we will be able to complete the write operation. So has Prakhar joined?
Yes, sir, I've shared.
Okay. Yeah. So now once the word line goes on, the BLFI node will discharge. Only after BLFI has discharged completely, BLTI will get charged through the PMOS now. Next. Till the time the PMOS had turned on, only a small amount of current from the pass gate was coming. So there was only a small bump that we could see. Next. Only when the PMOS turned on, you could finally get sufficient drive to be able to charge the BLTI node. So in a 60 memory cell, you always write a 0. Because the excess transistors are NMOSes, you cannot write a 1 before writing a 0. Is this part clear? The write operation?
Sir, can you repeat this part?
कहाँ से? कहाँ तक क्लियर नहीं हुआ? कहाँ से क्लियर नहीं हुआ?
सर वो फ्लो ही टूट गया तो इतना क्लियर नहीं हुआ.
Okay. So in the write cycle, you initially recharge one of the bit lines to VDD and the other bit line you discharge to 0. Now the side on which you want to store a 0, you discharge that bit line to 0. On which you want to store a 1, you maintain that bit line at VDD. Then you turn word line on. When the word line goes on, over here, for example, BLFI will discharge to 0. Are you able to see this? यहाँ तक दिख रहा है? यहाँ तक clear है?
Yes, sir.
So only when BLFI has discharged to 0, the BLTI node will charge to 1. And after BLTI node has also charged to 1, we say, click, that we have flipped the contents of the memory cell and we are storing 1 on the BLTI and 0 on BLFI. Prakhar, click. फिर अटक गया क्या? So यहाँ पे अभी तक क्लियर हो गया अक्षत?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is how we do the write operation inside a memory cell.
Sir, one more thing. So
Yes, Rohit?
when the BLTI goes to 1, right? So
Hmm.
wouldn't it happen? Okay. BLTI has gone to 1, so there's no issues. Okay.
Okay, so you have completed the write operation inside the memory cell with this.
Yeah. Okay, now I got my question. So when the BLTI was, it went from 0 to 1, right? So till the time it is going from 0 to 1, the PMOS, which is above the BLFI, that PMOS will be on, right? So
Yes.
technically the BLFI won't start feeling the discharge till the time the BLTI has gone to 1.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
shouldn't
यही
the
तो
left
ratio
thing happen before the right?
can't happen. How will you write 1 onto the BLTI through an NMOS? NMOS
so-
will always give a VT drop.
So it looks like a deadlock to me because it seems like one requires the other to happen.
That's the operation of a latch. So what you definitely need to do is you need to ensure that the drive strength of the pass gate is much more than the drive strength of the pull-up transistor.
Yeah,
the drive
if that
strength
is
of
true,
the
then it works.
yeah. So you have to ensure this through sizing. This is exactly the challenge that we were talking about when we said that we have converted our circuit from a static CMOS circuit into a ratioed logic kind of a circuit, where sizing starts to become important.
Got it, sir.
Okay. आगे बढ़े?
Yes, sir.
So now that we've seen these two operations, we actually can look at bit cell figures of merit. The most important figure of merit, which defines the speed of the access, would be cell current, because that would define how fast your bit line can discharge. There is another figure of merit which is called bit line leakage, because while on a given bit line there is one cell which is discharging, if I have a 512 row memory, there are 511 bit cells which are leaking on it. So bit line leakage also has a bearing on speed. They can enhance or degrade the differential creation time. Okay? Then, just like any latch, finally you're storing the contents on a latch, and when we talked about the flip-flop, we said that there is some noise that any latch can bear. Beyond that noise, the latch would flip its contents. So there has to be some sense of cell stability or a figure of merit linked to stability of the latch, which is called as SNM, static noise margin, or cell stability. Then when I was talking about power consumption in different memories, SRAMs, DRAMs, and flash, I said that for an SRAM to retain the data, you need to maintain some voltage on the memory array. So not reading and writing. For reading and writing, you definitely need full voltage to be there. But to just retain the data, you can lower the voltage so that your leakage reduces, but you still need some voltage to be used or to be supplied to the memory array. This minimum voltage that needs to be supplied to the memory array is called as retention voltage. Okay. Write margin is associated with the drive strength of the NMOS pass gate, because we want the, so अभी जो रोहित से हम बात कर रहे थे, we were saying that the NMOS pass gate should be weaker. The NMOS pass gate should be weaker than the pull-up device over there, the PMOS over there. So the strength of any device is also a function of VDS. The current that a device can sink is also a function of VDS and VGS that exists on that transistor. Am I right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So, right margin is that voltage which, if you keep on the bit line, the strength of your NMOS supersedes the strength of the PMOS there. Okay, so ideally you would want to take the bit line to 0. So you would have full VGS and full VDS. But there can be a case where, due to variations, you may require this bit line to be taken to a negative voltage level, in which case we would say that right margin is negative. There could be a case where this right margin can be positive also. You do not need the bit line to go to 0 also. The PMOS is already weak. Even if the bit line is at 100 millivolts, I will be able to overcome the current coming from the PMOS. So right margin is a figure of merit linked to write operation. Write time, as the name suggests, is very intuitive. It's the time that it takes to write into the memory cell and is a figure of merit linked to performance. Leakage is a figure of merit linked to overall power consumption. For a memory cell, because it consumes, we are saying 70 to 90% of real estate of a SOC is a memory cell. What this means is that you want it to have less leakage. So if you remember the example that we did for power consumption estimation, back of the envelope calculations for power consumption, then you might have noticed that memory devices were assumed to be HVT, high VT devices, and therefore less leaky. So memory cell devices, you will notice that almost always are designed to have least leakage. Okay, because leakage is a very important figure of merit for a memory cell. Next slide.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir, can we say that right margin is basically the voltage that we apply for which our strength of the NMOS become greater than strength of the PMOS? Is that so correct?
Yeah, you can say that right margin is the margin in the level of bit line that you have to have the strength of the NMOS exceed the strength of the PMOS there. Yes.
Sir, can you please explain the retention voltage again?
Retention voltage is the minimum voltage at which, if you keep the memory array, it will still maintain the contents of the memory cells.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. आगे बढ़े?
So,
Yes, Swapnil.
so when you know that you have that problem of retention voltage, or you want to have a larger right margin or something like that, why do we stick to the pass gate logic and not move to the transmission gate logic? Maybe because we know that write gate would have a drop kind of a
Because of
thing.
area.
Okay.
Area is gold.
Okay, just that. Okay.
For SRAMs, area is diamond. So in this course, I'm telling you area is gold. In the next course, MDT, I will tell you area is diamond. Okay.
Also regarding the retention voltage, I mean, like, I agree that this was the minimum voltage to actually retain the data, but like, could we somehow link it to the threshold voltage, or I mean, like, we get what voltage would be the retention voltage, or how would we actually find out or determine the voltage which will
So
actually
retention voltage is typically found empirically by experimentation. Okay. Because some kind of noise you can model, but some kind of noise you cannot really model because you do not know the source of that noise. So retention voltage is not a parameter that we designers can tell. The process teams actually make huge arrays of memories, SRAMs, and they characterize the minimum voltage at which they are able to retain the data. And that number they tell us, and we simply put that number in the data sheet as designers.
Okay. So,
You cannot do anything more about it.
okay. So this voltage is on the word line or on the bit line? Or like
This voltage on the VDD. Word line, retention means memory is not being accessed. So bit line, so word line is 0.
Oh.
Bit lines may or may not be pre-charged. That is a different thing. But VDD has to be driven to this value because I want this latch to operate.
right.
Okay, it is about the stability of the latch there.
ठीक है, sir.
Okay. So next slide.
Sir, one more thing.
Yeah.
One thing is bitline leakage and other is leakage. So
Yeah.
these two leakages are different we are talking about.
Yes, they are different. Bitline leakage is, so in this memory cell that you see in front of you, bitline leakage is the cell current, is the current that would flow from the pass gate when the word line is off. So for the 511 rows, the current that flows to the pass gate will discharge the bit line only. This is called the bit line leakage. Leakage is the entire leakage. So in this particular latch, there is a VDD to ground path also that exists, because either the PMOS or the NMOS is off and that is leaking. So when you add that leakage also into your calculation, into your characterization, then you say that this is the total leakage that is happening on the memory cell. Even gate leakage is to be added when you talk about total leakage. But for bitline leakage, you only talk about subthreshold currents from the bitline to the internal node of the memory cell.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So when we talk about cell current, I think it is very intuitive. It is very intuitive that only two transistors will be involved in determining the overall cell current. These two transistors are the pass gate and the pull down. The PMOS up there is off, and the other bit line and the other NMOS stack is also not active. So bitline cell current is determined only by these two transistors. Click. So ideally you would want this stack to be large. Pass gate and pull down, you would want them to be large. Next slide. However, as soon as you increase the size of the pass gate and pull down both, you will realize, click, that there is some challenge that will appear. The stability of the read operation, the stability of the cell during the read operation is essentially dependent on the potential divider between pass gate and pull down. See, if I say that there is some cell current, it means that the pull down is also sinking some current. The lower NMOS, which is connected to ground, is also sinking some current. Am I right? नहीं तो current कैसे जाएगा? If only the pass gate is sinking current and the pull down is not sinking current, that cannot happen. Kirchhoff law ensures that all the current entering into a node is also sunk somewhere. You remember this, Kirchhoff's law? So the current that the bit line is giving to the pass gate has to be sunk through the pull down. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So to be able to sink any current, there has to be some differential voltage across the pull down. So the internal node, which is Q or Q bar, should rise. If Q or Q bar do not rise, then there is no way that any current can be sunk by the pull down. If Q and Q bar remain at 0, then pull down cannot sink any current. So what essentially happens is we end up having a potential divider between pass gate and pull down during the read operation. Click. And this potential divider, वापस जा रहे हो प्रखर, आगे जाना है. So this potential divider tells what kind of voltage would appear at the internal node. अब जितनी ज्यादा नॉइज वोल्टेज या ये वाली Vx वोल्टेज आप यहाँ पे जनरेट कर दोगे, उतना कम नॉइज आप एक्सेप्ट कर पाओगे एडिशनली. Are you with me? See, latch has a certain behavior. On that latch, you have injected some noise due to read operation. You have said that the internal node is no longer 0, it is at delta V. So, whatever noise immunity you had when the word line was off, that reduces by delta V when the word line goes on. Are you able to see this?
I can't able to understand this part. Which potential dividers are you were talking about? Could you repeat from there?
So, do you see that there is a potential divider that will form between the pass gate and the pull down, the two transistors that are shown over here as of now?
Yes, sir, that I can understand.
So, what is the voltage at the middle node in the potential divider? If there are two resistances, R1 and R2, there is VDD on R1 connected to one side of R1 and ground on the other side of R2. What is the voltage that will appear between R1 and R2?
R2 upon R1 plus R2 into VDD.
So the potential divider will have some voltage which will appear at its middle. And to have that voltage to be as low as possible, you would want R2 to be
R2
as large, as small as possible. So you would want pull down to be as large as possible. because जितना बड़ा पुल डाउन होगा उतना छोटा उसका आर ऑन होगा.
यस सर.
सो अगर मैं यहाँ पे पुल डाउन को बड़ा रखूं और एक कम वोल्टेज इंजेक्ट करूं अपनी लैच के लिए, सी फाइनली अब मैं यहाँ पे चाहे आपको दो ट्रांजिस्टर्स दिखा रहा हूं, है तो ये पूरी लैच ना. This is essentially a latch, one side storing 0, one side storing 1. This is the intended functionality of the latch. Now the side which was storing 0, I am saying there is this voltage appearing because of the potential divider. So the 0 is no longer 0, the 0 has gone up a bit. Are you able to see this? हेलो.
Yes,
यस
sir.
सर. मींस जीरो स्टोर नहीं हो रहा, जीरो के अलावा कुछ और ज्यादा वोल्टेज वहां पे स्टोर हो रही है, राइट?
हाँ, तो अब इसका मतलब आपकी लैच थोड़ी सी, अब अगर आप लैच के 0 को 1 की तरफ ले जाओगे तो लैच धीरे धीरे 1 लिख देगी ना अपने अंदर, लैच अनस्टेबल हो जाएगी.
यस सर.
तो अगर आपका ये Vx जो है, जो ये इंटरनल नोड पे वोल्टेज है, ये बहुत ज्यादा हो गया तो आपकी लैच ज्यादा अनस्टेबल हो जाएगी.
करेक्ट.
सो आपकी स्टेबिलिटी को इंश्योर करने के लिए ये दो ट्रांजिस्टर्स बहुत सिग्निफिकेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं. एंड इट इज नॉट जस्ट द साइजिंग बिटवीन पुल अप एंड पास गेट दैट वी वर वरीड अबाउट ड्यूरिंग द राइट ऑपरेशन. दिस एनालिसिस shows that we should also be worried about relative sizing between pass gate and pull down. Are you able to see this now?
Yes sir. So what I will do, I will size my pull down network very large so that my R2 becomes low, and so that I can get a 0 over there and my latch function correctly, right?
Perfect. So click. एक और. So PD has to be as big as possible. One more click. ठीक है?
Sir.
But if you make PD to be very very large, then notice that you have the same PD on the other side also. So उस जो दूसरी तरफ का इन्वर्टर है उसका ट्रिप पॉइंट लो हो जाएगा and you may end up with an error. So PD has to be sized up, but it cannot be very very large. You just ensure that the ratio of pass gate to pull down is such.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So can you please explain why we can't have VD very large?
We can't have PD very large because आपने कहा कि आपका पुल अप छोटा बनाना चाहते हो आप राइट ऑपरेशन के लिए.
Yes, sir.
तो आपका अगर आपने पुल अप छोटा बनाया और पुल डाउन बहुत बड़ा बनाया,
Yeah.
then finally the inverter will have a trip point which is very low.
Yes, sir.
So even with a very large PD, you know that there is going to be some voltage that will appear on the internal node.
Yes, sir.
With a very low trip point, even that little voltage can lead to a cell flip.
Okay. Okay. Now I get it. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we will stop here now. Any questions? So we'll stop here and then we will continue in the next class.
Hello, sir. Sir, I have a question from project. Can I ask?
Yes, you can.
Sir,
But before एक मिनट शुभम एक मिनट रुको. अगर किसी को स्लाइड से क्वेश्चन
Okay,
है तो
sir.
पहले वो रिजॉल्व कर लेते हैं.
So I
Any
had
question?
Yeah, so I had question from slides. So
Yeah.
so the way I'm seeing things, I guess so maybe the sizing of the transistor should be such that my PD is the largest, then my pass gate, and then my pull up. Is that correct?
Yes. We will consolidate this in the next class also. But yes, this is the
Okay.
right understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else on this subject? Okay. Yes, Shubham, please go ahead.
सर मेरे से जो मैं पोस्ट लेआउट कर रहा हूँ सर, तो मेरा सर जो है डिले वो सर कम आ जा रहा है प्री लेआउट के कंपेयर में, और राइज फॉल तो सर बढ़ रहा है लेकिन डिले मेरा कम हो जा रहा है और पावर भी कंजम्पशन थोड़े कम हो जा रहे हैं पॉइंट में.
तो
सर, ये
शुभम
तो
ऐसा ना
क्या
हो रहा
करें?
हो. हाँ, मैं बताता हूँ. ऐसा ना हो रहा हो कि आपका जो जो आप नेटलिस्ट यूज कर रहे हो पोस्ट लेआउट में, उसमें कैपेसिटेंसेस इंक्लूड ना करी हो अभी. तो कैपेसिटेंसेस की एक अलग फाइल बनती है. कैपेसिटेंसेस की एक अलग फाइल बनती है जिसको आपको नेटलिस्ट के साथ ही इंक्लूड करना पड़ता है, नेटलिस्ट के अंदर ही.
सर वो जो पैक्स की आई है सर, वो मैंने इंक्लूड किया और कैपेसिटेंस एक्स्ट्रा भी ऐड किया 50 फेम्टो जो था.
नहीं, एक्स्ट्रा वो तो लोड के लिए है. जो आपके इंटरनल नोड्स की कैपेसिटेंस होगी, जो राउटिंग की कैपेसिटेंस आएगी, वो सब आएगी. दैट इज विजिबल इन अ डिफरेंट फाइल दैन द ट्रांजिस्टर्स. तो वो आपको इंक्लूड करनी होगी. हाँ.
सर वो जो पैक्स से जनरेट होती है सर, वो इंक्लूड की है मैंने सर.
पैक्स में 2 फाइल जनरेट होते हैं शुभम.
अच्छा, ओके सर.
एक में खाली ट्रांजिस्टर्स लिस्टेड होते हैं, दूसरे में खाली कैपेसिटर्स लिस्टेड होते हैं. आपको उन दोनों को मर्ज करना होगा.
ओके सर.
ठीक है. यू कैन
Okay,
चेक
okay,
विद
sir.
द
Thank you,
TAs if this is not clear. TAs will be able to help you on this.
ओके सर.
Sir, I had one doubt regarding the
Hello, sir.
SRAM project.
Yes, please tell me.
So, sir, as per the discussion we had, we did our on-paper logical analysis using the capacitors, so including the horizontal and vertical wires. Now, we have seen that the capacitance which we get in the post-decode stage is higher than the capacitance that we get in the pre-decode stage is higher than the post-decode stage. As a result of this, when we size the gate, when we come to the initial stages of the pre-decode, the gate sizing is like coming out to be very small, and that is if we see, it is not like practically it is not possible to have such small gate sizes. So
you anyway have the smallest gate size that is limited by the technology. आप उससे छोटा नहीं कर सकते, तो उतना तो आपको रखना ही पड़ेगा. So what happens is your stage ratio improves, stage effort would improve.
Yes, sir, but we are getting the sizes below the.
Sir, हमारा जो प्री डिकोडिंग कैपेसिटेंस है वो अप्रॉक्स 1408 आ रहा है. तो उसके बाद का जो गेट लगेगा पोस्ट डिकोडिंग में, तो 1408 कैपेसिटेंस के लिए जो गेट साइज होगी तो वो तो बहुत ज्यादा बड़ी हो जाएगी ना.
या कहीं पे कुछ गड़बड़ कर रहे हो. 1400 is huge.
सर एक्चुअली में हमने मुकेश सर से बात किया था, तो जो आपने हमें वैल्यूज दी थी ना हॉरिजॉन्टल और वर्टिकल की, उस वैल्यूज से निकालने पे एक्चुअली में ही आपका इनपुट कैपेसिटेंस बहुत ज्यादा आ रहा है टू द प्री डिकोडर. वो एक्चुअली में आपके 800 फेम2 से भी ऊपर आ रहा है। तो मुकेश सर ने हमसे ये बोला था कि अभी आप बैक ऑफ द एनवेलप कैलकुलेशन करने के लिए आप उन कैपेसिटेंस को हटा के बैक ऑफ द एनवेलप कैलकुलेशन करो एंड देन सिमुलेट करेंगे जब, तब सिमुलेशन में हम वो कैपेसिटेंस जो भी टैपिंग के हिसाब से इंडिविजुअल लाइंस पे ऐड कर देंगे।
ओके,
सो आई थिंक दैट सीम्स फेयर, बिकॉज अगर हम इतना बड़ा कैपेसिटेंस लेके चलेंगे तो उससे इम्प्रैक्टिकल कैलकुलेशन जाएंगी। तो उससे बेटर ये नहीं है कि हम सिमुलेशन में देख ले कि कितना फर्क पड़ रहा है, एंड इफ द डिले इज विद इन द रेंज एंड ही स्पेसिफाइड कि डिले इज 400 पिकोसेकंड्स से कम होने चाहिए, तो if the delays are within the range then it's fine, otherwise then we may have to do something.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
we can do that, but this capacitance is huge then. What could be the reason is that जो 6 to 7 2 फेम्टोफैरड तो और कम नहीं होगा, 6 to 7 शायद थोड़ा सा कम हो जाएगा, 4-5 हो जाएगा या 3-4 हो जाएगा।
Actually में ना अगर हम मिनिमम भी ले ले, हमने अगर 5 लिया है, ठीक है, 5 भी लिया है, तब भी मल्टीप्लाई होगा वो 256 से या फिर 128 से, ठीक है। और
नहीं तो आप अगर आप 3 to 8 डिकोडर यूज करोगे तो 64 से होगा।
लेकिन सर जो कैपेसिटेंस है वो 512 into 2 तो होगा, तो वो तो फिर भी 1024 मिनिमम आएगा ही आएगा, अगर हम सिर्फ वर्टिकल कैपेसिटेंस को भी हटा दें तो।
हाँ, मेटल कैपेसिटेंस तो उतना आएगा ही आएगा, ठीक है, इतना तो होगा ही फिर।
तो इसलिए अभी हमने जो करा कैलकुलेशन कर रहे हैं, अभी हम उसको जो बीच वाली वायर कैपेसिटेंस है उसको इग्नोर करके कर रहे हैं, एंड सिमुलेशन में हम ऐड कर देंगे कि इसके बीच में इतना कैपेसिटेंस है, एंड देन हम एनालिसिस कर लेंगे। एंड
दिस इज वेरी गुड बिकॉज़ यू नो द लर्निंग दैट यू आर गेटिंग फ्रॉम दिस इज देन दैट दिस कैपेसिटेंस, वर्टिकल कैपेसिटेंस इज सो ह्यूज। सी बिट लाइन की कैपेसिटेंस अराउंड 2-3 फेम्टोफैरड होती है। 2-3 नहीं, 0.2-0.3 होती है, सॉरी। हाँ, सॉरी 0.2-0.3 होती है, ठीक है। तो आप इसको 1 ऑर्डर कम कर दो, सॉरी।
0.2-0.3 एंड वर्टिकल की
ही बता रहा हूँ, वर्टिकल की ही 0.2-0.3 होती है, हॉरिजॉन्टल की 0.5-0.7 होगी।
वो हमने 6-7 ले रखी थी।
हाँ, ठीक है, 1 ऑर्डर कम कर दो अपनी कैपेसिटी।
सर तभी हमारा वो प्री डिकोडर के पहले का बहुत ज्यादा आ रहा था आउटपुट से।
हाँ, इसीलिए वही मैंने कहा ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है।
तो फिर अब तो आई गेस हम इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं इसको भी अपने बैक ऑफ द एनवेलप में भी।
यस, यू शुड बी एबल टू। भाई तुमने कहा नहीं इंक्लूड करना, मैं थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूज हो गया, मैंने कहा ये क्या है। सो इट्स एक्चुअली 0.2-0.3। आई एम एक्सट्रीमली सॉरी
सर। वन मोर क्वेश्चन सर, जैसे हमारा जो कैपेसिटेंस आता है हम लोग यहाँ पे कैलकुलेट करेंगे, तो सीन हमने कैलकुलेट किया तो उसे हम उसमें डिवाइड करेंगे विड्थ में, तो सर उसे मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे ना किसी फैक्टर से उस रेशियो को चेंज करने के लिए विड्थ में।
दोबारा से बोलो, आई डिडंट गेट द क्वेश्चन।
सर मींस आई गेट 45 कैपेसिटेंस फॉर अ गेट, इनपुट कैपेसिटेंस। अब मुझे विड्थ रेशियो निकालना है, तो अगर नॉर गेट है इट्स लाइक 4:1 रेशियो है, तो 45 को मैं 4:1 रेशियो में डिवाइड करूंगी, बट इसको एक्चुअल विड्थ में चेंज करने के लिए जो मैं अपने एनमॉस या पीमॉस की विड्थ रखूंगी, उसके लिए किस फैक्टर से मल्टीप्लाई करना होता है?
वो तो आप क्या कहते हैं, ये कह सकते हो कि आपका जो मिनिमम गेट साइज है 0.2 माइक्रॉन या 0.3 माइक्रॉन, उससे मल्टीप्लाई कर लोगे।
ओके, ठीक है, ओके, थैंक यू सर।
सर ऑल्सो एक और चीज था कि बेसिकली जो लेट्स से अगर जब मैं लॉजिकल एफर्ट कैलकुलेशंस कर रहा हूँ, तो जब मैं पीछे जाऊंगा, एज इन लेट्स से मेरा नैंड गेट जो होगा, लाइक मैंने कैपिटल H निकाला, देन कैपिटल H से स्मॉल h निकाला, तो उधर से जो मैं लाइक जो पोस्ट डिकोड का नैंड गेट है उसकी साइजिंग तो आ जाएगी, देन उसके बाद प्री डिकोड का जो आखिरी गेट होगा, उस गेट पे मेरा जो आउटपुट कैपेसिटेंस होगा दैट विल बी माय वायर कैपेसिटेंस प्लस द कैपेसिटेंस ऑफ द नैंड गेट जो मैंने साइज करा है पोस्ट डिकोडर वाले। तो ये कैपेसिटेंस का मेरे को ये कन्वर्जन नहीं समझ आ रहा, क्योंकि मुझे वायर कैपेसिटेंस तो फेम2 में दे रखा है, पर जो हम पोस्ट डिकोड के नैंड गेट की साइजिंग निकालेंगे दैट विल बी इन टर्म्स ऑफ एस्पेक्ट रेशियो। सो उसका मैं कैपेसिटेंस क्या लिखूंगा, लाइक मेरे को वो यूनिट लाइक मैं +10 तो नहीं करूंगा जस्ट बिकॉज की उसकी साइजिंग 10 है, 10 into some कांस्टेंट होता है ना एक्चुअली।
हाँ, नहीं, तो आप उसके लिए क्विकली ये कर सकते हो कि एक डिवाइस को रखो, उसको एक्सट्रैक्ट करो और देखो उसकी कैपेसिटेंस क्या है, गेट कैपेसिटेंस क्या है। या एक डिवाइस को आप एक्सट्रैक्ट भी मत करो, आप एक डिवाइस को बस अपने नेटलिस्ट में रखो, उसके गेट पे इनपुट को 0 to 1 लेके जाओ, देखो कि उस 0 to 1 ले जाने वाले सप्लाई से कितना चार्ज सिंक हुआ टू चार्ज द गेट फ्रॉम 0 to 1. If you can get the charge, you know the voltage change that you have brought about, and you will get the C of the gate.
Okay. So it's like going before back of the envelope. I'm doing some simulation.
Yeah, that is characterization. That is setting up your back of the envelope.
Okay. So by doing that, I can get the const C.
Yeah.
But then this C has to be done with respect to a inverter, right?
जी देख लो, तुम जिस भी कोई भी एनमॉस रखो, पीमॉस रखो, कुछ भी रखो, इन्वर्टर रखो, कुछ भी रखो, आपको पता लग जाएगा कि इतना जब विड्थ था तो क्या क्या चार्ज कंज्यूम हुआ. तो पर यूनिट विड्थ यू विल नो दिस इज द काइंड ऑफ कैपेसिटेंस आई विल सी.
ओके. तो मैं सीधा एक एनमॉस ले लूंगा जो स्टैंडर्ड साइजिंग पे है, एंड देन उससे मैं साइजिंग मल्टीप्लाई कर दूंगा उसकी कैपेसिटेंस जो आई है.
यस
है ना. या ओके सर.
हेलो सर.
Yes.
Yes sir. Actually, I had a doubt ki like can I extend my PP and NP layers beyond the PR boundaries?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Because anyways, my logic was from the top and bottom. Anyways, we are going to abut the other cells.
Yeah. Just so like NVL, PP and NP. Yeah. Just like NVL, PP and NP will exceed and go beyond the. Yes.
But sir, in NVL, like if we are keeping the like top, we are abutting from the top. Okay. So if we are keeping the top cell on another like some different body bias, and my regular one is on different body bias, but if my NVLs are touching, then it will give the error, right?
तो वो तो हो नहीं सकता ना.
हाँ, so like
का मतलब ही है, तो why do we worry about that?
Okay. So मतलब पूरा का पूरा सारे के जो अबट रहेंगे तो सेम
वेल है तो सेम वेल ही रहेगा ना, सेम बायस रखना पड़ेगा. That is a constraint.
ओके. लाइक मेरा जो ऊपर से सेल आ रहा है और नीचे वाला, उसके मैं पूरी एक कॉमन एनवेल बना सकता हूँ. होल एज अ होल. ओके. तो लाइक ओके, सो देन आई कैन मूव माय गेट्स, लाइक जो मेरे पॉली है तो वो मुझे हाफ DRC छोड़ के मैं और भी ऊपर मतलब मेटल के पास रख सकता हूँ.
यस.
ओके. थैंक यू.
Yeah. Sir, one small query that I want to ask about that. Sir, the assignment we are getting, can I take the questions from any competitive exam and put my solution there? It would be count for plagiarism.
Yes. Actually, see, you should use your. आपने पूरा कोर्स करा है. You just see what was important. आपको इतने सारे quizzes हुए, सब कुछ हुआ. You got a view of sample of so many questions. 2 क्वेश्चन तो बनाने हैं मुनून.
हाँ सर, उसमें कोई इशू नहीं. मेरे को लगा मैं कोई अच्छा अगर कॉम्पिटिटिव पेपर का क्वेश्चन लेता हूँ और उसका मैं खुद सॉल्यूशन डिजाइन करता हूँ.
उसको मॉडिफाई कर लो थोड़ा सा, फिर कर लो उसको मॉडिफाई, उससे इंस्पिरेशन ले लो.
ओके,
इंस्पिरेशन ले लो, उसको मत कॉपी करो.
ओके सर, ठीक है
सर.
है ना. यस
सर, आई हैव अ डाउट रिलेटेड टू प्रोजेक्ट. सर, उसमें हमने जो LBS किया, LBS में S कनेक्ट करके एक एरर आ रहा है. तो सर हमने उसका गूगल सर्च किया तो वहाँ पर बोल रहा है कि नॉर्मली हमारा जो कनेक्शन होना चाहिए वो मेटल के थ्रू होना चाहिए. तो शायद हमारे सर्किट में कहीं पर वीक कंडक्शन हो रहा है OD लेयर के थ्रू. तो सर मैं एक बार स्क्रीन शेयर करके आपको बताऊं कि कहाँ पर लग रहा है मेरे को.
यहाँ दिखाओ.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but we also had this error. So so the way to resolve it is that when we do LVS, so the VDD and the ground pins, the naming of them, LVS is not able to capture. So the way you do it is that you open the LVS settings and LVS options, and then you add your specifically the net names, and then it will work.
So Priya, does that help?
Yes, ठीक है सर, वो try
Or
करती
maybe
हूँ.
you can, what you can do is just open the LVS options. Yeah, LVS option, and there's also an option to disable that S connect. So if you will disable that, but when you will finally run PEX, so PEX will catch that this net means this net. So that works. So it's just LVS is the problem. Maybe the tool is not updated or something, but yeah, PEX and DRC both will work if I just disable that.
Okay sir. सर आई थॉट कि है ना हमने डिफ्यूजन किया है तो डिफ्यूजन के कारण वो वीक कंडक्शन हो रहा था तो ओके आई ट्राई दिस ओके थैंक यू
Okay, all the best. Yes, Setu.
So actually, we were trying to characterize hold time. So setup time we did, as you said, that 1.05 times the clock to delay that we were able to do. But suppose let's say I'm trying to characterize hold time, right? Now I use the same metric of 1.05 times clock to Q, but now the problem is that Q will never change because the falling edge when I'm characterizing the hold time comes in the opaque state, right? So my Q never falls.
No. So hold will go negative then. You will take it before Q arrival then.
So I mean that is kind of like setup time only, na then.
No. It is not setup time. This is still hold time.
I mean, so hold time is that after the clock edge, last sampling edge arrives, how much longer I must hold on to
but hold time could be negative, which means that you don't even need to wait for the clock edge. You can toggle your input before the clock arrives or along with the clock arrival.
Exactly. That's what was happening, right? We were toggling together and still it was holding. That's why we thought,
तो आप और पहले ले जाओ. That means it is negative hold time.
I mean, but then that would be setup time, right? Wouldn't that?
Because you were looking at CK to Q delay of the previous transition,
right?
Not this transition. जो आप ट्रांजिशन देख रहे हो उसी ट्रांजिशन को जब आप करेक्टराइज करोगे तो आप उस डेटा के सेटअप की बात करोगे ना.
ओके
ये जो नया ट्रांजिशन दे रहे हो ये तो उल्टा ट्रांजिशन है ना. ये तो वो वाला डिले कॉज ही नहीं करना चाहिए था.
समझ गया. Right. Okay, so just उसकी right. Okay, got it. And just one more thing. So when we talk about metastability, so the tau we discussed was setup plus hold time, right? I was going through the lecture with Rohit sir presented. I was not able to get that mean time between failure forms and how is that coming in, how that relates to the metastability whole thing.
So MTBF is just calculated by using tau.
Okay.
Assuming that there will be this duration for which your system is unstable.
Okay.
तो उस तरह से वो MTBF उस फॉर्मूले में डाल के निकाल लिया आता है. तो आप टाउ को देख लो वो काफी है अभी.
Okay, so tau is just effectively my setup plus hold time, because, and that means that okay, in this time your input should not vary, otherwise there is no guarantee that output will hold.
Yes.
Okay. And that's basically my characterization for metastability, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all the best. Yes, Swapnil.
Sir, actually I mailed you. I wanted to have a word with you. Can I wait for like others to leave, or maybe we can share a separate meeting, or what do you suggest?
Yes, we can wait for others to leave.
Okay. I mean, like, okay. Sure.
Yeah. Prakhar, you can stop the recording if you have not yet.
Sir, actually, I don't have battery in my laptop, so I think we'll have to leave then only because I'm also joined by mobile.
तुम भी मोबाइल से आए.
I think I'll ask Mukesh then to stop the recording.
नहीं वो नहीं कर पाएगा. तुमने स्टार्ट करी तो तुम्हें वो करनी पड़ेगी. Swapnil, then we will meet separately in a different meeting then.
Okay.
I can stop the recording if you want.
Are you able to stop the recording? Do that then.
Yeah. Stop the recording. The recording will be saved in Anuj Glover's Google Drive. So
yeah, please do that.
Yeah.